Hello again, I am Blunty. Yesterday I spent 8.5 hours straight live streaming Need for Speed Payback, the spankin' new entry in one of the best known racing series in gaming. You can get it on PC, on PlayStation 4, on Xbox, and I highly recommend you get it on any platform except Xbox. Of course, as those of you who dropped in on the stream saw, it's buggy AF on Xbox. But according to reports from my chat room peeps, the PC version, the PlayStation 4 version, and at least one player who had it installed on the hard drive on an Xbox One S, they all had much smoother, glitch-free experiences than I was having. I am playing on a standard launch Xbox One. My plan was to play this on the Xbox One X, but because of reasons outside of the scope of this video, I don't have my Xbox One X yet. Grr. Anyway, specifically, the kind of glitches and crap that I saw was frequent lock-up freezes when coming out of the map screen in particular. You'll see it in some of this gameplay too. The game just stops dead while the music keeps going, but everything else freezes. While the car freezes, sometimes the people, the NPCs in the background will keep animating too, but I just can't do anything. The horn works, but I can't do anything else for like 10-15 seconds at a time while it, I don't know, loads up something or refills the memory or loads in a bunch of new textures. I don't know what it's doing. All I know is it froze solid fairly frequently, especially while coming out of the map, and it was driving me insane. I had a lot of issues with ghost cars, vehicles that would just sort of sit on the road, be completely intangible without any kind of hitbox or AI at all. They wouldn't move, you could drive straight through them, they just were there in spirit only, really. I had issues with certain game mechanics not working properly, like the nitro gauge not replenishing properly, and the photo mode would take 10 to 15 seconds to kick in after trying to trigger it, which of course means it was useless for getting any kind of cool action shot. You come off a jump, you try and trigger the photo mode in midair, and no, it's like 15 seconds later when you've landed and turned upside down over in the dirt somewhere that it finally kicks in. Interestingly enough, the photo mode was working properly by the end of the stream. I have no idea why. I was running the game directly off the disc, not a hard drive install, and yes, my Xbox and game were both fully patched up, fully updated, and I have no venting problem with my Xbox. It's sitting in the open and clear, it's on a vented shelf even, it's clean and in the open. I was laying the blame for most of the issues I was having at sort of the memory size and speed on the original Xbox One. It just, I don't know, it just feels like it was having trouble streaming information off the disc in time to have it ready to be playable. Shrug. Those issues aside, the game did run well. It seemed pretty consistent at 30 frames per second, with only a few rare, noticeable drops here and there, and despite the standard Xbox One version being the ugliest at just 900p, it's still a pretty game, especially near sunrise and sunset. Gameplay-wise, it felt pretty solid. It's an arcade racer, so control feels nice and easy to get to grips with. Most cars I drove felt highly responsive, and I felt like when crap went bad, and crap did go bad because I'm not a great driver, I feel like it was my fault. I didn't feel like the game was screwing me over or being a pain in the ass. Point is, mechanically, it feels great. Now, I was framing my experience while streaming by comparing it to another recent open-world style racer that I really enjoyed, and in fact that Payback is quite similar to in many respects, Forza Horizon 3. And long story short on that, I like Horizon 3 more, for many different reasons, but Payback here is still a pretty decent game, and while for my first 3 hours the glitchiness was bringing me close to shrugging and giving up on it, or bursting into tears, or rage quitting, or something, anything but playing this glitchy game, by the time I was 5 hours in or so, I was starting to have quite a good time in fact, and by the time we closed off the stream at beyond the 8-hour mark, I was having an absolute blast. Compared to Horizon 3, I felt like the density of things to do was a bit lacking, while Horizon 3 offered up a constant flow of really neat and fun things to do. Every time you turned a corner there was something cool. But Payback seemed more sparse in that respect. You could drive around for quite some time without coming across another racer or an event or an activity or a collectible or whatnot. Though that said, there is a nice variety of activities on offer. Several different kinds of racing, from street to off-road to pursuit and escape missions, which I really enjoyed. Need for Speed is best when you're in escape missions, don't you think? There's drifting score attack modes as well. I also particularly enjoyed the treasure hunting in the form of finding derelict vehicles to restore and then hunting down and collecting parts out in the world for them. You get little clues on a sort of a hand-drawn map and you have to hunt them down on the real map and find them. It's pretty fun, and they're in inaccessible places, so you usually have to find a jump to get to them and stuff. I liked it. In fact, I liked it more than Horizon 3's similar gimmick of finding junked cars to restore by finding those shed things or barns or whatever they were called. I also liked much of the course design more than Horizon 3. The streets, the tracks, the race layouts were very consistently compelling from a skill demand point of view. They were interesting, they were good looking, and most importantly, of course, they were damn fun to drive. Now, I've not read any other reviews yet, but I've seen reports and scores and some discussion in the chat room yesterday that seem to indicate the game is not reviewing that well. In fact, it seems to be scoring quite lowly. One complaint I've heard repeated is the grindiness, which I started to get a sense of in my stream, but that said, I also never really felt like I wasn't making meaningful progress most of the time. The thing I hated most, however, outside of the annoying lock-up and glitches I kept hitting, was the writing, the dialogue, and much of the voice acting and directing. This game is painfully cringy almost every time a character has something to say. The story is idiotic, the characters feel so forced, and the cringe-filled efforts to make everyone sound fully sick, rad, awesome, cool dude lit is just awful, sometimes nearly reaching physically painful just to listen to. It is truly tragic how poorly much of this game is written and or performed. In most other respects, it is a pretty solid, if not especially inspired, open-world arcadey feeling racing game. Don't get it on Xbox, don't expect a compelling story or likable characters at all, do expect a pretty enjoyable driving experience and races with some great tracks and courses with a decent level of challenge that ramps up difficulty in a nice welcoming curve that never really makes you want to throw the controller, but never really feels too easy to be interesting either. The car selection feels pretty standard for a game of this type these days. There were no real surprises there. All the common stuff seems to be in there. All the, everything you expect to be in there is probably in there. So the final verdict is, it's not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. And I will, I think, be coming back for more. There's more game here that I want to play. There's more tracks that I want to race on. There's more dialogue I'm going to have to suffer through. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.